Hi guys, how you doing? I'm just going to do a short video on the one-legged hip thrust. Now obviously one-legged hip thrust is just a variation on the two-legged hip thrust, right? But I suppose one of the main advantages of it is because you're working unilaterally, it gives you the opportunity to work one leg at a time. So if one leg's stronger than the other, for example, then this sort of highlights it a wee bit more, and it gives you the chance to make sure that each leg is working at the same sort of intensity if you do the same number of reps. Obviously, because you're one leg as well, there's a sort of added stability requirement. So the muscles around the hip arguably need to work that a little bit harder just to keep a nice sort of alignment. And for that reason, although the barbell hip thrusts are excellent in so many ways, one-legged hip thrust is a nice exercise to also include because it ticks a few boxes that obviously a normal barbell hip thrust wouldn't. And it's also one of the other advantages of it is because you don't need to use as much weight, it's not quite as tricky getting into the position. But anyway, what you're going to do, I've got a 20k kettlebell here, you're just going to come down onto the box. Obviously you can use this height of box or the slightly lower one. Generally speaking, the shorter in height you are, you're probably better off using the lower box, so that you want to have a fairly even line between your knees, hips and shoulders. But if you're quite short and you start off really high, then you're going to have a bit of this sort of angle, which doesn't lend itself best to incorporating the glutes. You want to sort of at the very least have a sort of close to even angle. Okay, so just bear that in mind, whatever box you're using. Anyway, from here, all you're going to do, you can just place the kettlebell on your hip like this, and you're just going to lower it down. As you lower it down, you can kind of let it sit here. Okay, I would just keep one hand on the handle, and then just come up and finish with the same idea. Just finish by squeezing through the glute here, pushing your ribs down, and engaging through the core. Okay, I like to do the single leg hip thrust in particular with slightly higher reps, and also a sort of 3 to 4 second lowering phase or eccentric phase like there, and then up fast with a pause when you finish at that finish point. So slowing the way down, 2, 3, 4, up fast. Okay, so that's the movement there. If you're aiming, if you can get about 10 to 12 reps out with that sort of tempo, it's so challenging. You really feel the glutes just really screaming, right? In terms of the cue that I usually use to say to folk to slow down is imagine the way down when you're lowering yourself down. It's like you're pulling back like an elastic band or a catapult, and then as soon as you're at the bottom position, you're letting it go, and then you're pinging up fast. So the way down, because that's how kind of what's happening. Like the way down, the lowering phase, your muscles are lengthening. You're getting length through the glutes. So you're pulling them, pulling, and then the way up, let go, it shortens, and then you try to be powerful on the way back up. So just sort of bear that in mind when you're doing these. But they're so effective, the single leg hip thrusts, particularly if you pay attention to that tempo of 3 to 4 seconds down, up fast, we pause, and then repeat. Okay.